part of what we're going to talk about too. And so we have right now, well, I'll get up here. Come on up, guys, and have a seat, and y'all can sit. Y'all can be right there, all right? And I will go ahead and introduce them in just a minute. But we're hoping that Morghan will come in just a few minutes. But we're going to go ahead and get started because y'all are here, and your time is as important as everybody else's, right? Okay. And, all right. Yeah. Close, I guess. All right. And there's a third one, so you can leave it out. All right. There we go. Printer, don't y'all love technology? My printer decided that it was not going to print. So I'm looking for my phone, and that's not that. You can't go do anything.
Are y'all's microphones working?
Yeah,
They're good.
Check them before.
Do you want to start with introduction?
Yeah, so let's do this. All right, we're going to put on the close-up glasses so I can read it. All right, so tonight's conversation is part of the Good Trouble Good Zone Weekend of Action. And it is the second installment. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
All right, it's the second installment in our public education series on justice reform. We launched that back in April with our judicial panel at Broadway Baptist Church. And tonight we're asking the question that sounds simple but really isn't. Who is legally eligible to vote, but practically locked out of the ballot? So before we begin, I want to start with some questions and give you some background, and then I'll introduce our panelists. So I want to give you some context because a lot of what we're about to discuss depends on a distinction most people don't know exists. Jail and prison are not the same thing. Jail mostly holds people who are awaiting trial, or they're serving a misdemeanor sentence, and you retain your right to vote. You have not lost that right. Only a felony conviction that results in state prison time takes voting rights away. And even then, those rights come back once your full sentence is complete. Now, that includes any parole, probation, or time behind bars, any fines. That's called being off paper, okay? So Georgia has one of the highest incarceration rates in the country. It also has one of the highest numbers of people under community supervision, probation and parole. That's a separate group from the people currently serving behind bars, and their voting eligibility depends on the underlying conviction too. So, eligible people can vote by absentee ballot, but the rules around who can help have tightened. And now only a family member can assist with picking up that ballot or delivering that ballot, where community members used to be able to help. So here's the gap we're here to talk about tonight. Many incarcerated people and their families simply don't know the rights that they exist, the ones that they have, and they don't know how to navigate that system. They're not locked out by the law, but they are locked out by information and by access. And that's what tonight is all about. So, our panelists, and then I'll introduce, and then we've got some new ones. So, when Morghan gets here, Morghan Boyd works with Ballot Business. She works directly with justice impacted residents here in Augusta. And so she will come in and be able to give us that perspective. And she's one of the driving forces behind the protected class ordinance. And we'll be discussing that later tonight. So please join me in welcoming her when she gets here. So as she comes in, I want y'all just to make a big deal about it. I just want to mess with her. All right, so I would like you to welcome Major Chester Huffman Jr. with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office. Major Huffman is Director of Detention Services at the Charles B. Webster Detention Center. And he's here tonight to speak on what happens inside the jail, including how eligible residents can access their right to vote while they're there. So please join me in welcoming Major Huffman. Is there anything you want to say in addition to what I said? All right. All right. I also would like to welcome Hilton Sampey. Raise your hand. All right. Also known by me as King Red the Barber. And that's the only part I remember. I never, when she sent me his name, I said, I know Red. Okay. Hilton turned his own experience in the court and prison systems into a mission of educating others on reentry and restoring self-worth. And he's here tonight to share what that journey has looked like firsthand. So welcome, Hilton. And you are a friend, so I'll let him introduce himself.
My check. Okay, thank you. How everybody doing today?
Good.
My name is Harold Doby. I was born and raised right here in Augusta, Georgia. And I was actually at the Peak Jam. Morghan gave me a call to come fill in real quick because of her emergency. So it was kind of last minute thing I picked up, but I'm glad I was able to make it and fulfill in. But my story is I was also incarcerated. And while I was incarcerated, I received education. I wrote a book while I was incarcerated. And I also been working hand in hand with Ballot Business and with Morghan. I actually just became one of the coordinators with them and working with people and giving them resources on how to rehabilitate themselves after prison. Also, and it's actually while in prison, because if you don't want it for yourself, they're not gonna hand it to you. So it's some things that we have to research on our own to get them steps done. And so I'm here to talk about that part on what I did. And also I had a 45-year prison sentence, which I wrote my own appeal and got my sentence overturned.
So we have Hilton, we have Major Huffman, and we have Harold. All right? This is what I do when I teach, is I go, okay, let's say this 3 times so that I remember who's who. All right. So the first time, the first segment is we're talking about voting rights and ballot access. So that's where I opened, and that's where I want to start, is that gap between legal rights and the practical access. I'll start with Ballot Business. Ballot Business has taken the stance that a working community is a safe community. Harold, can you explain what that means in terms of public safety and what specific steps that maybe the City Commission can take to remove unnecessary barriers?
So I know one that we've been trying to do is like ban the box. So coming home, it take money to make money. So a lot of people been not getting the right proper help at jobs because of their backgrounds. So we trying to get it to where failing your background don't matter as long as you're willing to work. And there's been a lot we have to do with just having meetings, trying to get community involved and give them steps to understand what's really going on with what we got. And so like today, I'm glad that everyone here, once we get numbers up and everything, get more people involved because numbers matter. And we just been taking these steps, starting small, actually started in Atlanta, and we just actually became in Augusta, actually right now, it's just me and Morghan. And we try to get more people to join our business. We have meetings every Tuesday, well, no, every second Tuesday of the month down in Alabama. So once we get that going, the steps, and get the community more involved, then we can actually start taking steps further to take it to the commissioner boards and try to get some things changed. Because if we don't know what the community wants, how could we, just us two, be the spokesmen for the community? So the more people we get involved with us and behind us, then we'll be able to take action and steps. So that's why we here today to actually hear what would be best for y'all and the community as a whole, so we can know what steps to take.
Thank you. Yeah, the league actually attended the Bird Business meeting at Allen Homes last month. And we had a number of people talking, and that's part of the reason that we have this, what we're doing today, is they said, we don't know how to help our people that are incarcerated. We don't know how to navigate that probation, how to help them make sure that they come out and that they have the resources. And so that was one of the reasons that we put this particular educational summit together, was coming out of that meeting last week. And it's actually, it's next Tuesday at Allen Homes. If you're interested in joining us, please do, and we can talk afterwards. But that is a great way for the community to get involved in. It's not just the justice impacted community, it's getting to know each other. And that's part of that, building that community. All right, Major Huffman, I want to turn to you directly on the voting piece. Yeah.
What is his name again?
Doby. I'm proud of myself in that. See the moment, I remembered it. Exactly. All right, so I want to turn to you directly on the voting piece. Our office reached out back in May to coordinate a JO voter access, and we're told that we would be pleasantly surprised at voter access when I talked to you earlier. And we finally got our hands on that piece of paper, and we got you to explain what you got a voter drive flyer that lays out real registration eligibility for people in custody. So thank you for that, and walk us through that.
So we met with Ms. Joy Johnson and several members of High Opportunity Voter Project last August. They came to the jail. It started out a different group, the New Georgia Project, and we roll over into the HOVP. And they met with us at the table. What can we do to register folks to vote who are incarcerated? This is not the first time. When I retired in 2014, and when I was at the jail before I retired, we did this then. We put a message on the kiosk. The day rooms used to have just a box on the wall, and that's how the inmates, residents, communicated with administration and put in their requests for anything and everything. Well, now these are iPods, and on this iPod, they can do everything. And we don't even visit on the box in the day rooms anymore. They just take this to the day room or the cell or the stairwell, and they have their face-to-face visit. It's amazing, the technology. We don't do 10 visits a day in person, but we do 200 a day on this little blue device. Well, on this blue device, we had our vendor put this flyer that we got from the HOVP folks, Ms. Johnson and her team. And I thought I might see them. So I reached out to them because I take their information. very quickly, we tell them if you're not currently serving a sentence for a felony conviction, you can get registered. If you're off paper, like you said, for a previous offense, you can get registered. If you're serving a felony first offender or conditional discharge sentence, and the status has not been revoked, you can get registered. If any previous sentences are complete, your right to vote is automatically restored. Now, I'm reading this from their information, and if something's changed since this, you just need to re-register to vote. If you need to get registered, you meet other requirements for voting, over 18 years old, U.S. citizenship, Georgia resident, the obvious stuff. Then they are to notify a program coordinator, and on this little teeny tiny box, there's a tab, and they hit a button, they say, I need help getting registered to vote. Well, we're going to reach out to HODP. We're going to send an email to Ms. Johnson or Mr. Franklin or one of the other staff members. And we're going to, they're credentialed, so they're going to come into jail. We're going to put them in front of that resident and let them do their thing. I asked a question, what if they're not registered to vote and they're a resident at 1941 Tennessee Road? Well, they're going to register them at their home address of 1941 Tennessee Road. I said, well, what happens after they go somewhere else? They get out of jail. Oh, they just have to go to their Board of Elections office and change their address. So we're not making it difficult. If they're eligible to vote and eligible to become registered to vote, come on. So we're actually, that's why I said you'd be pleasantly surprised. That's basically all we can do is we advertise, and I went so far as to make screenshots. They have to read, when they first are issued this device, there's 3 documents that they have to select and check off that they saw them before they can use the wonderful device. And one of them is High Opportunity Voter Project. So we want their attention that they have to hit the button. So we are leading the horse to water. And so beyond that, that's my spiel.
That's very similar to the Motor Voter Act that in Georgia, when you register to get your license, it's a vote out. You have to opt out. Otherwise, it's automatic when you get your license. And a lot of people don't realize that because they don't pay attention. And they're registered to vote and don't even know it. But that's why we have a high instance of registered voters, is because they did have that. Now, that's getting them registered. So what about, that's step one. Right. How do they learn about the candidates? How do they, get issues on their ballot, and how are they allowed to vote?
Well, certainly I can't drive them to the poll, so right. What's another option for me?
The other option?
Absentee ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, is to request an absentee ballot, so that would be the next thing to.
And when they say, I would like to vote, I'm going to call these folks. We're going to turn this over to them. Okay. Whatever the request is, if they want information on candidates, because of our constitutional connection, it's sort of like advertising, campaign at the poll.
Yeah. We
have to be very particular how we don't post campaign material inside the jail, which is the government building, and the sheriff is a constitutional officer, and there could be complications and other things that we don't want to get involved in. But if a resident wants to learn, we're going to connect them with these folks. Now, unfortunately, since August of last year, count on one hand the number of inquiries we've had.
So one of the things leading into the November election is we may need to do some voter education on getting them to register to vote and to know that they can do that, to pay attention to it. One of the things that the League of Women Voters has is a website, and it's called vote411.org. And it is for all 50 states. It's nonpartisan, and it allows those people, the voter, to go in and you can find who's on your ballot, find a sample ballot so that you know what's there. It's nonpartisan, which means it doesn't say you need to vote for XYZ candidate or anything like that. It provides that information, so that's another information source that they might do.
That could be published on this device.
Exactly.
That information, if it's provided and it's nonpartisan, we can post that. We have the ability electronically. It's just amazing what we can do now that we couldn't do it on, a while back. And we could put a sample ballot on there. We're in Richmond County, so we, of course, have to be.
Right. And so would that be working with the Board of Elections?
Where do you get that sample ballot from? I know where I get my sample ballot from.
Yeah. We usually, the Vote 411 has a sample ballot once it's published by the Board of Elections.
So we would need that digitized, put in a PDF format and sent to leadership.
All right.
We may not, I don't want to obligate something that I'm not going to remember to do later.
Right. Can they access the internet on that device?
No, absolutely not. We have to draw the line on. See, right now, I'll show it to you, but it says no internet connection. You have to be on the internal. And still, one of these days, one of our super intelligent residents is going to hack this. Because they already know how to take it out of the secured case. There's nothing that folks that live in my house can't do. I wish they could do that when they were outside.
Yeah.
More than they do, because they are some of the most unique and intelligent individuals when they're inside that 24/7 condition. But so no, they can't. They're limited to what we allow them to get to. But we, the jail, we're open to what do y'all want us to put in there. We've got however many pages of the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. The whole book is in here. And the Bible and the Quran. They don't pay for that. Now, they pay for certain things, but not that. And so if your organization or Vote 411, HODP, or the commissioners group,
Right.
yeah, we would put that on there. Nonpartisan stuff. We could put it on there. Someone just has to send it to me and go, hey, how about upload this?
I am pleasantly surprised, you're right. And one of the things I want to call attention to is Georgia has 159 counties. This access is in Richmond County. It's different in Burke County. It's different in Columbia County. It's different in Fulton County. It depends on the sheriff and his processes and procedures, and we're forward thinking here. So that's the other thing that people need to understand, that this is a different process and not all residents have that same opportunity. And that's really
folks in other counties should push their sheriffs, because I guarantee you that higher percentage of the jails have this technology. I know Burke County, I got the tablets down there. And all you have, that would just be a phone call to the vendor and say, this is the document I want you to upload. And they choose not to do that, but it's absolutely doable pretty much everywhere where they install, the vendors have installed this sort of software and offer.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, Hinton, you're over there. I want to bring you into this conversation since you've lived this, just like W. Sorry. I just remembered. I went back to third part. Sorry about that. How did losing and then regaining your own voting rights shape the way that you talk to others about civic participation?
Well, losing them actually, losing them.
That was a good one.
Losing my rights was actually almost like losing my voice. And due to the conditions of what I lost them for, I wasn't able to fight once I got out of it and fight to be able to restore or even be able to help. So losing it allowed me not to be able to go back on the back end and try to help. And to be quite honest, I still haven't gotten back yet. Because I'm from Louisiana, and leaving the place where I was to come to Augusta to change, I left while I was still on probation, and parole actually. And so once I left, I didn't have them because I was under parole. So now that I'm off, I'm not too sure, but I think I have to go back and get my rights restored then.
Yeah, because that's one thing that's different is that each state has different, Florida, just recently, the citizens voted to have felons have their rights restored, and then the legislature said no. So different states, and I think that's part of the misconception, is that different states have different laws regulating, just like we were talking about different counties have different access. And so that's what part of what makes it difficult to know, are we under Georgia's laws because you're living here now and you've satisfied your sentence, but it could be that Louisiana has, that you have to apply to get your voting rights back. But it seems to me, I'm just saying, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn. But you're in this municipality and that should be the governing. And so that's one of the things. How do we find out? That's where we're looking at. How do you bring that, to make that reentry, to make that voting accessibility knowledgeable to you, to your family, so that they know that. And so we need to talk. We need to figure that out, don't we?
Yes, definitely.
If anybody knows that's watching this Facebook Live, let us know.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I want to shift a little bit because we sort of talked about coming out of incarceration. What happens when they come home? Because for many people, that sentence doesn't really end when they walk out that door, that prison door. There's a term that I've seen called permanent punishment, and it refers to restrictions at the local, state, and federal level that continue to punish people long after they've served their time. And these restrictions block access to employment, to housing, to public benefits, and to education. Harold got lucky in that he got an education while he was inside and took advantage of being in there. So let me put some numbers on that for you guys. In Georgia, roughly 4.4 million people have a criminal record. That's close to 1 in 2 adults. That's not a small separate group of people out there somewhere. This is a community. And formerly incarcerated people face unemployment rates over 27% higher than any point in U.S. history, including during the Great Depression right now. Here in Richmond County, we have one of the highest numbers of citizens on pay-only probation, which tells us we have a very large justice-impacted population. Richmond County should be leading Georgia and giving people a real second chance. The proposed solution locally is called the Protected Class Ordinance. And if passed, it would make it illegal for an employer to deny, fire, that protected class. Harold, can you tell me about what protected class means?
So they already do it up by states of and everything. So the protected class, it helped us with backgrounds to come out and get reported. Like my situation, I had to be up under the first offense. And still, when I come on, certain people put my background, it still show up that I was offended. And just say someone that don't know too much about the law, but they work in human resources, all they see is offended. They don't know anything about what first offender is. And go back. Me, before I actually got incarcerated, I had a bachelor's degree in communication. I graduated from Augusta University. But while I was in prison, I went and got 9 other certifications. Correct? So once I came home, the jobs that hired them, they was telling me that I'm overqualified for the job. And the jobs that I was qualified for with my education, they were telling me they can't accept my background. And then let me remind you, it just got suspended on May 28th, but I had a restitution that I had to pay. That's what actually sent me to prison for not being able to pay a restitution for $155,000 within 12 months. That's why I got sent to prison for 45 years. But it's like, how am I able to pay a restitution or any fine if I'm not able to work? So it's like, I don't want to use the word setting us up for failure, but the average person, once you get out a couple times, you're going to go to the streets or something like that, and it's going to force you back in prison. Because eventually you're going to end up on the wrong side and end up doing the wrong thing. So the Ballot Box is to help us stay out of prison and get employed and make community a whole better place. So that's what that designed and put in place for us that's coming home. Because one mistake should define your whole life. And there's a lot of people that get affected by that call a felon at age 17, 18, 21, you know? And so that's what that put in place for, to help us that has a background and that out here looking for work. Because a felony that I committed or someone committed 10 years ago or 7 years ago shouldn't affect them in today's life.
And yours is a non-violent felony.
Well, okay, the original charge, it was. The original charge, it was. But when I got revocated, it was about not being able to pay a restitution. But the crime actually happened in 2019. And since then, I done bettered myself, education-wise. But still, certain jobs is looking at something that happened in 2019. And really, in Georgia, anything that's supposed to be 5 to 7 years older don't even supposed to be a felon or considered a felon no more legal for job history. But it goes back to what I said. People that work in the HR department, they don't know anything about law or the criminal side. So when they pull you up, all they see is that you have a felony, and they automatically write you off before even giving you an interview or knowing who you are. And first impression is everything. So we try and put that in place so the backgrounds won't even exist. You'll just know a person for their name, their birthday, you call them over the phone to get this interview, and you address a situation like that. But a lot of us not even getting opportunity because once they pull out background, all they see is we've been incarcerated or we a felon. So that protected cause law, we try and put that in place. So you won't know someone by a sheet of paper. You'll actually get to know them about who they are and what they speak about when you see them in an interview.
Yeah, many people, that protected class is not just for incarcerated people. That is a class. Protected class are women. Protected class are African Americans with protected class disabilities. Those are already in the federal government, but this is not something that is in the federal government. But it doesn't mean that we can't do it at the local level. We can expand what the federal government has, and that's what we're looking at here. Morghan, do you want to add anything? Morghan, what did I tell y'all when Morghan came to
Thank you, y'all. I'm so sorry to be late. This is such an important conversation, and I'm very upset that I'm late. But and also at the state level, actually, there are no protections in Georgia for anyone. So that is something I did not know. But that is, when you think about it, that's insane. That no one has a protected class in Georgia. So to have a protected class for justice impacted people in Richmond County, it will be monumental. And it's so important here because Richmond County has such a large population of justice impacted people. Georgia as well, 1 in 3 people are justice impacted here in Georgia. That's 4.4 million people that have a criminal record. So this is a large population of people. And the protected class ordinance is just going to take the Ballot Box a step further, where it will not allow employers to deny you based on your record. It won't allow employers to employ you, get a few weeks of work out of you, and then fire you because of your record. It's going to force employers to look at, okay, so what was the offense? How long ago was the offense? And what is the offense in relation to the job that they're actually doing? So again, like Harold said, it's about giving second chances. And really, your barriers to reentry, your barriers to be reintegrated into society is based heavily on where you live. And Richmond County having such a large justice impacted population, Richmond County having one of the highest amount of citizens on pay only probation, we should be at the forefront of saying, hey, no, we're going to give folks a second chance who are trying to reintegrate into society. These are folks that are going for jobs, going for interviews, showing up to work, and being told, well, because you have a record, you can't stay. So what are they supposed to do? So that's what the protected class ordinance looks to do. Add further protections.
Okay, thank you. All right, Lady Huffman, this is your side of the conversation too. The Sheriff's Office has a significant presence in Augusta's lowest income neighborhoods. Does the department believe it has any responsibility beyond enforcement to help address the conditions that repeatedly bring people back in contact with the criminal system?
So, yes. Besides incarceration. So, we have programs, and I'm speaking a little out of my element because I run the jail. Okay. And by the way, out of the 1,347 currently justice impacted individuals that are in the jail system in Augusta, 200 of them are on felony paper who can't get out of jail. 990 of them are charged with a felony offense, mostly violent. They can't get out of jail. And the least of our offender issues are 151 misdemeanor offenders, 151 misdemeanors, about 1,350. That's nothing. We've sent 2 to the hospital since I've been sitting here, and I've released about 5 since I've been sitting here because of their medical conditions. And we're absolutely overwhelmed with folks who can't pay their probation fine. They come back to jail. It's a vicious cycle. I can't get on a soapbox about that. That's another story. I work more every day trying to find ways to put people out of jail, out of custody, than I do doing anything else. And I apologize. I didn't really fully understand that long question.
I was just wondering, and you were talking about what are those programs? How do we try to help them not come back? How do we help them get out so that and be able to thrive when they get out? Not just get out and go. Are there programs that the Sheriff's Office has? Because I know the DA has some programs and the Solicitor's Office do have some. And I was just wondering if the Sheriff's Office had anything to help those that were in the neighborhoods already.
So homeless and mental health are 2 of our very largest problems. We have a homeless outreach task force, but the resources are beyond the Sheriff's Office. Yesterday morning, for the 3rd day, we had nowhere to take a 63-year-old gentleman who was nonverbal and couldn't walk. The district attorney from the conference that they were at yesterday, the day before yesterday, released this guy, dropped his warrant. It was a felony drug charge, but it was like 0.03 of a gram of cocaine. Or it could have been fentanyl, but he's not going to prosecute that, and we are. I understand that. That problem is more a use problem, an addiction problem, a detoxification problem. And so the programs are limited. What do we do with the homeless person who's mental health? So anyway, when I got to work yesterday morning on the 3rd day, a gentleman who's in our jail, but not even under charges. So basically I'm holding maybe I'm kidnapping the guy, but he doesn't know it. But we had to take him to an emergency room and have him reach out to adult protective services, APS, which is a whole other story. We are limited with resources, especially mental health. I have at least 80 inmates in our jail that are in restoration, and that process is designed for people who are able to be brought back to some semblance of normalcy. And the 80 that we have, they're waiting on a bed, and they will never stand trial for murder. And a month ago, we had one commit a murder, who both of the victim and the aggressor are both waiting on a bed. It's Central State or regional or anywhere, but those beds don't exist. And so they all end up in the jail. And what do we do in the neighborhood where there is a problem? We take them to jail. What's the other recourse? They're so very limited.
Yeah, that's part of, you mentioned mental health is one of the major factors. And I was talking to some people, that they said that they came to talk to her son, and they luckily called her because he's schizophrenic. And they told him that they didn't have a place to take him to the hospital. There was no bed. The only other alternative was to take him to jail. Well, we haven't done anything to take him to jail, but there's no other place. And that's something that there are no alternatives, just what you said. Morghan?
Yeah, I wanted to add two things. One, I know that this is something that our business, we're really trying to push. I know you said inmate, but we tried to use humanizing language. Okay, good, thank you. So justice, when you say justice impacted, just because the name is very important, what you call someone is super important. And I'm not getting on, I'm just saying for everyone here. But, every budget is a statement of values, right? And so if Richmond County is saying, hey, we value more the punishment. We value the punishment more than the prevention, then that's a problem. And that's not necessarily a sheriff problem. That's a budget problem. So that's a city official problem. So that's a state level problem. But how long are we going to continue to be reactive? How long are we going to continue to just lock people up instead of trying to get to the actual problems of why it's happening in the first place? Augusta has a very high poverty rate, right? Augusta has a very problematic education system. So when we're not addressing those things, we're going to continue to go in this cycle. But then we learn, I know you guys maybe saw online the guy that said, we need sweat equity in the jails. Okay, well, as long as we value making money off of people more than we value people, then we're going to continue to have these problems.
You went straight into one of the things I was, my next question was, one of the definitions of insanity is to keep doing something, the same thing, and expecting a different turnout and a different change. Harold, what do we do?
I'm going to kind of combine both of the questions.
All right.
Because from me having experience on the inside and the outside with it, and, like I said, before I went to prison, I was playing professional basketball. So I had it made, what some people say, but I felt once I got to prison, I went into a deep state of depression. And just because I came in prison with an education and things like that, when I was writing grievances and putting medical calls forward, they was overlooking it because I was one of the ones that was, I guess they'll call a stable mental health. But just because I was stable coming in doesn't mean I'm stable now, because going to prison, that was a different state of transition, just eating, how they treat you, and everything. And I advise anybody to get help when they come out of prison, just because of the way it is, the way they house you. And the goal to make things change is, that's why I'm here now, to help people get resources once they get out of prison, because you have to do your own research. And I know we got American Works, that's why I go for therapy and everything. And I learned a lot by going to American Works. They actually do have programs that they help you with housing, they help you find jobs, they give you clothes and everything, but no one tells you that. So we come out and just thinking that everybody looking down on us and don't want to help us, but we're not doing the research on our own. So how could it change, to go back to the thing? So I feel once you get released from prison or jail, they should give you a sheet with people that you can reach out to and contact people. I think that can be one change that could be made to help us know that it is people out there that care about us once we come home. We got a question.
You got a question?
Yeah. Is it that proper? Is it proper to ask a question now? Thank you. My name is Ollie Washington. I'm a retired engineer, and I'm just boiling over. I mean, we're putting a lot on the sheriff department, but it's not. You know, they're doing a good job. I appreciate some of the programs they have, but we need to back this process up further. As an engineer, before I retired, and since I retired, I try to get into the schools and tell kids about educational opportunities, about what they can do. And the two local schools, A.R. Johnson and Richmond Academy, they've been great. I got in there and spent the whole day, had good conversation. Some of the other schools, it's been Josie, and then one of my other pet peeves, I've talked to, I don't know how many African-American churches. Hey, preacher, give me your kids on a Thursday night, let me talk to them. Zero opportunities. This young man sitting up here, he would be great to go to some of these churches and talk to the kids, take the luster off of crime. That's the first problem we have. It looks too cool. Your pants hanging down or whatever else you learn in prison is not cool. And as he attested, you're messing up your career for the rest of your life. So we need to back this process up, and I would hope that we would have this thing full of preachers who were ready to start programs where these young men could come in and talk to them. Here's what you're headed for before you throw that brick through this window. So, again, thank you.
Thank you. All right. I see Hinton raising a hand. Huh?
So, what you were saying, you hit everything on the head, you hit the nail on the head, right? And that's what we need. I think the thing is, people in the communities, they don't want the lifestyle that they have. They're looking for, they know what they want to be, and they know what they are. So, in my philosophy is that we have to meet them where they are, and they know they need to grow. The thing is that they're listening to grow. And they know they need to grow, but they don't know how to grow. So as you're saying, you're going to the schools to teach them how to grow, to teach them, to give them something that they can look forward to and say, hey, this can be done. I know somebody, I see somebody, I talked to this person, you just made it real to them. But some of the people that you're speaking about, they don't want to look into that because that what makes it real. Now it's on their doorstep. You can hear about it, you can talk about it, you can say, but once it's on your doorstep, what are you going to do? And that's the thing that I look at is, what are we doing? We can say all day how we're doing it, who we're going to help, what we're going to help, but what do you actually do? And what do we actually do? How many people are we letting go in? So for me, myself, I tried to get into the juvenile facility because my story is crazy. I started off in juvenile prison at 13, and I was in and out of prisons up until 33. So from 13 to 33, I was not out of custody. I was either on probation, parole, or in some form, or in prison from 13 to 33. So, and I was smart. I wanted to get out. I knew the ways, what I needed to do, but that how I was entangled into the system, even everything I tried, it wouldn't let me go. So I vowed that once I made it out, it took me 12 years, but once I made it out, I would come back and, like you said, knock the luster off of that lifestyle, because what I saw. So let me tell you how I got into it. So I was a church kid, raised in a 2-parent home, middle class neighborhood. Mom and dad didn't work out. When mom leaves, we moved homes and projects and different things, right? I go outside, I'm running outside to play. Next thing I know, I don't even know if I hear it, but it's just like, boom, I'm on my back laying up, somebody hit me, knocked me down. And I'm like, dang, man, where am I at? Ran in the house, went back out the next day, learned how to fight. And I said, my thing was, I got to get my family out of here because none of them can handle this like I can. So I started to look for different ways to get them out, but nobody was telling me that, hey man, you go get a job, hey, you go get a trade, hey, you do this. All I saw was the drug dealers. I seen the nice cars, I seen, them having money, I seen the women, I seen, like you said, the muscle. I seen all of that. And I said, well, this would be my way to get my family out. And so for a minute I fell into that, and nobody came back to try to save me, try to help me, because the people that was over me, they were doing the same things. So when I get to the prison, like Harold, I started educating myself. I was already educated before, but I started educating myself. As I started educating myself, some of the older inmates, like you said, you got some residents that are smart, that are phenomenal. And I started educating myself. And once I started educating myself, I said, once I make it out, I'm never going back again. And then once I got my shot, I made it out. So now I'm trying to go back. I'm trying to come back. I moved from where I'm at, and I'm here. A lot of people don't know me here, but I got a lot of value, and I've been trying to make it into a juvenile facility because that's where it starts at. It starts with our kids. If we can get to the kids, we do have to get to the adults too, but it starts with the kids so that we can change what they see. And if we can, basically, they told me that my background showed that I had a blatant disregard for law, but they're not looking at that I finished college. They're not looking at this book right here, The Defense of Justice, was written by the American Bar Association. I'm the only person convicted of a felony that's in this book, alongside other lawyers and public defenders and people of that nature. I'm the only one, and I'm in it 3 times. I'm the only person in it 3 times. So they're not looking at, I work with the #1 leadership training organization in the world, John Maxwell, and I'm one of 100 out of 60,000 people in a year. So basically what I'm saying is sometimes people can see what they need and you can tell them what you can do, but it's up to them to open that door to let us go in. And if they don't, most of them don't want to let their go step, because then you actually have to deal with it. Now you actually have to do something. It's easier to go and help the, stuff that you can do quickly and blow you up and, show you on TV or whatever, however that does make you look good, but it's harder to take those steps. So I encourage the people here, I encourage us on this panel to keep doing everything that we can to show the people, whether they're young adults, older adults, we have to show them how to grow. They know they need to grow, but most of us were never taught how to grow. So I think that it's very imperative that we all continue to work together and keep having these conversations and make this stuff work.
And a lot of times, I'm coming from the teacher. I've taught in middle school, and high school, and college. The school to prison pipeline is real. And we talk about expulsions. Why is that an option? What are we doing to help the child if we're kicking them out of school? Where are they going to go? They're going to be on the streets. They're going to wander. They're going to be where they don't need to be. And so that's another one, is to look at our school system. How do we treat our students? And just like what Ali was saying, talk to them. How do we support them? Because this is what Morghan was saying, and so we're pulling together some of this stuff, is how do we catch them before they hit the system? That's the thing, is how do we make it to where that is not the primary option for them? How do we help them learn those skills? Because adulting is hard, period. I still think so. And when your parents don't have those skills, how do you learn those skills? That's part of what we saw. I taught middle school 8th grade 14-year-olds. And one of the young men, who was a basketball player, decided he wanted to see how many girls he could impregnate. And he got 6 impregnated at age 14. And one of the girls told me her mom is going to be a grandmother at age 28. So what does that tell you? There are children raising children. And that's part of our problem also. And we're also dealing with an economy where you're working 2 jobs just to get by. So do you see your kids? Where are they? Did y'all know that Augusta has a curfew? Yeah, it has curfew. And sometimes they say the curfew zone. And they do. Because when we were having the gun violence, that Sheriff Franklin came out and said, reminder, you're not supposed to be out after, what is it, I think after midnight or something like that. You know, that's curfew is designed for protection. And so that's one of the things. I mean, some people think, oh, no, I can't go anywhere, you know, but it's designed for protection. Now, Morgan, I want to go back to something you said about money. And let's talk about this. Where the priorities are on what we're addressing. Because we just passed a SPLOST that part of the money was going to increase the size of the detention center. But the thing is, and we've already been told the detention center is overflowing, right, sir? Yeah. And so we do need to do something, and you're working on that. But the thing is, even construction takes time. So it's not going to be, that wasn't an immediate fix to that overcrowding. And when that overcrowding is, like you said, because they keep they're fine, or that, can you help me with that? I don't know where I'm going with it, but it seems that we've got a revolving door that how do we reduce the number of people that are being impacted because of the overcrowding if they don't have a bed for them to even sleep on? Yeah.
So I can only defend. I'm going to defend the fact that jail needs to expand, not because the sheriff is trying to lock up every single person they encounter on the road. Now, if folks break the law, they should be held accountable. However, they shouldn't be incarcerated, depending on the crime. Now, the problem we have is the 87 charged with murder. The alleged child rapist who has been in our jail almost 10 years now. Fernandez has been with us for almost 10 years, pre-trial. And so that's 100 people ballpark that you don't want out on the street. You want them brought to justice. The 990 felony offenders who are in our jail now, who may or may not get out, they're not going to get a recognizance bond. I'm not going to release them on the law because they typically are violent. They're assault, armed robbery, something of a violent nature. And if we just say, oh, you can go out the door, I'd rather the judge do that than me. So we've got 1,000 beds like that. 1,066 beds, but 148 of those beds are in a building that was designed only for medical and mental health inmates, which shouldn't be the majority of the population. Well, we're using those 148 beds for medical, mental health, and overflow. And they're all in stripes, which is a violent offender, and they're mental health. So we are full and work every day to release people who are impacted the lowest level, and that's the district attorney. We are working on a program right now between one attorney, one Superior Court judge, the district attorney, and our goal is 10 a week. 10 of those 990, low-hanging fruit, we are calling them. Haven't you been at some of the overpopulation committee meetings? So they're started that, so I'm losing 10 a week right now, 9 or 10. Well, that's a good start. We are going to build 288 beds, 2 housing units, 144 beds each. Those are going to be to put the people crammed in the 1,000 beds that we have. It's actually 950 or so. We're going to be more comfortable and be able to classify the people that need to be there. Everyone else, we're not building jail space so that we can lock more people up. People are still going to get locked up. So our aggressive release program, and I'll let you take over from there, is to put anybody out that we can. It's not going to be harmful to the community. And if they can't afford bond, I'm the bad one. for the sheriff. We're gonna bail it out.
All right, cool.
Go ahead.
That's so good.
So these things.
I already know.
Come up here. Come up here. Yeah, come up here so people can see.
So Augusta has one of the highest number of kids sentenced to life in prison without parole. We do have violence at the local mall, but there was kids that tried to organize a youth takeover that had a hostile reaction. Most of the things that Augusta suffers from actually put kids more at risk. And the answer of building a larger prison, when we have most of the people in there, is just due to poverty and targeting of it. And this is corroborated by police officers locally. We have a ton of people that are cyclically let go as violent prisoners and sometimes only get in there after many offenses, sometimes due to finally murdering someone to get caught. In the meantime, a majority of those people don't need to be in there in the first place. And we're putting money into punishment first when there's plenty of things that money could have been used for. Parks, green spaces, supporting those kids at the mall. That would have stopped this. My main focus is dealing with predatory environments, and what fixes that for victims is not focusing on the predator. It's actually lifting the environment, injecting equality. You don't have predators with that environment. And Augusta suffers from a stark contrast of inequality. There's plenty of answers. This local government just does not want to do that. There's been too many devil's deals made with large corporations because we've been close to bankruptcy since the 70s. So if we want to fix this, the real answer is to get politicians that were part of that out of office.
All right. So let's talk about Richmond County and the solution as far as paying for things. If we're going to put money towards the right place, what do we do?
I think it's easy to say, well, you commit the crime and you do the time. I think that's an easy thing to say. But again, you have to look at the conditions that are creating these crimes. Again, Augusta has a poverty rate that is over the national average. When people are desperate, when people are desperate, there are bad outcomes. You say, well, we have violent offenders. Well, by those definitions, the man you're sitting next to could be considered violent, but he's not violent. You cannot go off of one moment in one person's life and say, this is what they are. You just can't. And prison is not rehabilitation. Not in America, it's not. So there's that whole thing. But I think, like you, Gayla, I was also a middle school teacher. And when you have 7th graders reading on a kindergarten level, something has gone extremely wrong. If they're determining prison beds off of 3rd grade reading scores and 7th graders are reading at a kindergarten level, then, the math is adding up pretty quickly. And so I think until we put money into our children's education, until we put money into jobs, because a working community is a safe community, until how do we have the largest budget for the sheriff's department? How can we justify that? Why do they need $111 million? Why do they need new cars, new fleets? Why? And then to say, well, we're not focused on over-policing, it's hard to see that not being the case. So again, I'm going to keep saying it, your budget reflects your values. And so if we're saying we care more about being reactionary, then we're doing the right thing. But if we want to actually solve the problems that are plaguing our community, over-policing is not the answer. It's just not the answer.
That whole concept that the budget is your statement of values. So we spend millions responding to crime, but where in the budget do we spend on preventive measures? In fact, one of the things that the last budget they cut was NGOs and local organizations that were doing some of this work Some of the things that have happened at the federal level have been budget cuts for Boys and Girls Club. Those places that provide alternatives for youth that would support youth, that would be preventative programs as opposed to having the punishment. Because as District Attorney Jared Williams says, punishment is not keeping them from doing it again. That we wouldn't have recidivism if the punishment the first time was harsh enough that they said, oh, I'm not going to do this. Now, it may work with Hinton, and it may work with Fairhope, that they're not going to, but not everybody does. The punishment is what's keeping them from committing that crime again. So let's see. Anyone want to talk about reentry and what that means day to day? And we'll sort of sum that up. And if anybody's in the audience has questions, think about them, and we'll get you to talk.
Reentry. I actually have a book that I'm writing now. It's called SLAP. And it stands for Starting Life After Prison. People don't understand how hard it is when you walk out of that prison cell into the free world. You done lost relationships, you done lost bonds that you done had with certain people. A lot can change in 2 days. So just imagine someone that's been gone from their family for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and all you've been doing is getting treated like an animal for the last 5 years of your life. So when you step out that gate, you automatically aggressive. And then once you done been rejected for the last 5 years of your life. So when you try to get a job and get told no again, it makes you angry and bitter towards the world because the way you done got treated, and now people looking down on you. I done been home 18 months now. I've been working my job for 14 months. I gotta drive 47 minutes away every day for work because no one in Richmond County will hire me because of my background. But with me being self-motivated, I was filling out guaranteed 20 applications a day. That was my goal. But the average person is not gonna do that after they got told no 10, 20 times. Well, I had to accept getting told no order to find something, but it took me 4 months to land the job. And that was sending me back into a depression stage, PTSD, everything. And even with my kids, I got 2 little girls, they're 17 and 11. And I wouldn't actually let my kids come visit me in prison because I didn't want them to get used to visiting me in prison. And then once they start dating, they'll think it's cool to date a guy that's in prison because they'll be used to it. And so that we kind of lost connection all the time I was incarcerated. So my bond with them when I came home, I had to basically recreate it over again because I had to learn them all over again. They had to learn me all over again because my mindset, my mental hadn't changed. A lot that I thought was cool before I went in, I don't even acknowledge right now to this day because it's a shift. And coming home from prison, actually a task that people don't even, and that's why when you go up to a parole board, and people don't know this too, when you go up for a parole, right, and you sit in front of that parole board, people thinking that when you tell them, hey, I got a family member that's sick, or I got somebody out there depending on me, the parole board don't want to hear that because they don't want you coming home with a heavy load because they already know how it is coming into the world. They just want to hear, do you have a plan to get a job, how you plan on staying out? But people try to use family members and other things to make themselves sound like they got this perfect plan. But the more you put on yourself, the more they're gonna say you're not ready because we don't want you coming home to this heavy load. That's one thing. But coming home from prison is a tough task. And if you heard me from the very beginning, I said I advise anybody to get help and get counseling coming out of prison. Especially someone that had a certain lifestyle and going in and change dramatically, and also losing people while you're in prison. Death that you can't attend funerals, or even just losing like what you had. And it takes a lot when you first come home, for sure. And I'm still recovering to this day, and I don't have it figured out. And I'm pretty sure that it's just like reading. You never know when certain things gonna hit you. It'd be some days I just be riding down the road and I just start crying. It'd be something that I came from prison. I still hear them doors slamming to this day. I still hear them doors. I still hear radios. Like sometimes I wake up and hide sleep with all the people that I saw got injured in prison. So you never lose. You know they say you'll never forget how somebody made you feel. And that's how it is in prison. Like you'll never forget that feeling. They say the most important day is the day you walk in and the day you walk out. But nobody talk about what you go through in between those times. And it's some things that we go through that scar us for life. So I don't really think it's a real recovery for after prison. You just learn how to cope with it. You done been through so much pain and trauma. That's just something you learn how to deal with. We put band-aids on scars that need surgery. And that's what prison do. You just put band-aids on a scar that really needs surgery. And if you have a real rehabilitation plan in prison, then it'll be a better. And I tell people every day, if people do what I did while I was in prison, they'll stop sending us. Because they use it, because they say criminals don't help another criminal become another criminal, a better criminal. That's what they say. And so, once you in there, you just learn another bad habit. Because it ain't nothing in place to keep you busy throughout the day. I wrote a book and I educated myself. I gave myself a task to do to educate myself. And if we start educating ourselves in there and come together and build a rehabilitation plan, they'll stop sending us to prison because we'll be getting too smart for them. In a good way. In a good way.
Major Huffman says y'all are smart already.
They is, but they just using it the wrong way. When I saw guys make electricity out of water.
They make what?
Electricity out of water. I'm talking about anything, cooking out of water and make tattoo guns out of water. Like, you'll be surprised on the things that you see. He right, big well, you not gonna sit around doing things. You gonna try everything. And that's what I tell people. For sure. So I'm passing on him on some of his experiences, but that's just how I feel. If this was a better rehabilitation place inside prison, it'll help us outside prison.
And I'm laughing because everything he said is accurate. I sit here today, looking well, looking distinguished in my suit, but those scars are still there. That hurt is still there. That pain that you go through, because there's places that I had to go to when I was in there that I couldn't bring back to my family. So when I got out, every time I was released, I literally stayed away from everybody for 2 to 3 months, a couple of months, to become the person again that they knew, that they understood. Because at times, I still remember the time I got out and one of my close family members went to touch me. They went to touch me, and when she went to touch me, I jumped and I looked at it, and I was like, man, I gotta do something. I have to do something. And it was awkward for her, it was awkward for me, and it was, she just wanted to do it. She was talking to me, she just wanted to touch me, and I couldn't be touched. I do remember at times the reentry process was rough. I can definitely remember a vivid time. I was speaking two times. So one of the first times I was coming out from a really big prison, it was a guard there that ran the reentry program, and I was in the reentry program. And it's like he said, I went in front of the board to get let out, or I can't think of it, the parole board. So in Louisiana parole boards, you may have 60 people go, but only one person gets released out of all those people. And you may have 3 people a month out of all those people that go. And so in actuality, the only reason I got released, I was lucky to be able to be released, but I had some guys that were in there. They made a makeshift parole board, because they had been to it so many times and they had got denied. They made a makeshift parole board, and they had me doing like I was at the parole board. It was embarrassing. it was definitely embarrassing because everybody was like, look at it, like, but I didn't care. But ultimately, I was willing to do the things that other people weren't willing to do. And I went up there and I was the only person that got released that day out of all those people. And so when I got released, I came back. And the lady that was running the reentry program, I was going to be released within a week. I had maybe 6 weeks left in the reentry program. And she told me that she could not give me the resources. I asked her, like, hey, can you give me the resources because I'm new? She said, well, I can't give you those resources because you didn't finish the program. And I'm like, really? Like, you can't give me the resources? And she would not give me the resources. So the next time I went to class, it's sad, but I told her not to do it. I had to give my resources. And it's sad that I had to do it like that, but she was told not to give me those resources. And the next time that was really notable for me was there was a guy in the reentry. It's a different prison. There was a guy in the prison. And it shows you the contrast between people and between reentries, right? So the guy, his name was Mr. Gray. Mr. Gray was a millionaire. So he didn't have to be there. He was there for the kids, for the inmates, for the people that was there. He was there. And he would give us a lot of information. And he was very instrumental in me being a speaker. He brought it out of me. He pushed me to speak. And he pushed me. And a lot of people didn't like me to say, oh, you talk too much. But the reason why he would have to, the things he was telling us and the information he was giving, he knew that they wouldn't allow him to straight up give it to us. So he had to shroud it in a bunch of meaningless things. And if you listen good enough, you can get the nuggets that he was giving. And I was one of those guys that ended up getting it. And so he was very instrumental. And when I got out, I'm not going to say that was the thing that, because I ended up back and forth, but I never forgot him and I never forgot what he taught me. And just recently, I went back to Louisiana and I was able to meet with some of the people there and actually do a speech in some of the places for some of the people that I was with and give them back home. But the thing is, when you get out of there, just a quick, I want to read a quick excerpt because this is what this book is about. It's what I spoke on, the challenges of getting out of there and making it. And so I said, I was put in a position of failure upon release from prison. I was set free from my cell, but not from death, to probation and parole. I was released with no funds, no job, a felony, kids, parole, bills, and child support. My felony made getting a good job difficult. I had to compete for fast food openings with guys who were on work release and so could be paid less than minimum wage. Besides, while working at Burger King would cover child support and parole, I was still left asking myself, what do I do? If I didn't pay parole, I went to jail. If I didn't pay child support, I went to jail. And I had to live, feed myself, clothe myself, and pay bills. So what I did was skip Burger King, go to school, sell drugs, and pray I didn't get caught. I rationalized this by thinking school and drug dealing would eventually put me in a better position where I could get a job and give up crime altogether. And that's just a piece of what I wrote, but it was me trying to reach out to other people so they could hear what was going on because of all the things that are stacked against us. So the reentry programs, we need better reentry. We need, like I said, we need better help to show us how to grow. We need the resources that we're all collectively talking about. We just need to fight for it. We need to put a little more effort into it and just see what we can do. Because if we can help, you'd be surprised that the people in prison, the people coming out of jail, those guys work hard. You put them on the job, you ain't got to worry about most of it. Because they're going to work harder because they have something more to do. They're going to be there on time because they don't want to go back to prison. We have a lot more to prove. And today, I sit in this place because someone believed in me. And I just want to task y'all with who do y'all believe in? to be able to step forward and help somebody else.
I get emotional every time I hear both of their stories because I know these men. Harold Doby works with me, never late. Anytime I call him, he's there. I told him about this yesterday, and he is there. He is one of the hardest working brothers I know. I call Red my brother. We met maybe a year ago. I swear it feels like we came from somebody's womb together at some point. One of the best men I know, and it's like to know that they have had to struggle so much when they have such great character. It's just sickening. It's permanent punishment. If we say, okay, well, you do the crime, you do the time. Okay, well, what if you do your time? And then you come out and you're permanently punished. I just don't understand it, and it breaks my heart because, like I said, I know these men, and they are extraordinary men. So to continue to suffer is just, it's not right. And it makes me think how many other extraordinary men and women are still suffering from something that isn't even part of who they are anymore.
Mayor Huffman, you actually talked about working with people that are in your jail to get them out because they don't need to be there, right?
I work every day, 7 days a week, to put people out. They committed they are accused of committing a crime, but jail is not the place to keep them. And it's statistically proven. I don't know the number, but if you're out on bond, you stand a much better chance of properly defending yourself than if you're incarcerated all the way up until you decide to take a plea agreement because you've been in jail 4 years working in our kitchen of the county jail. It's not a prison. They're not convicted. And then you end up taking a plea. So a person is better off on the outside. And I know that, and I'm not preaching. I don't have a soapbox. It's just that my job is to minimize the population, especially because of the overcrowded situation. But beyond that, we work to do that.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone who has any questions?
I have one, Jayla.
All right, come up here. Thank you, Hilton. All right, so stand here because we're doing Facebook Live, so turn around, buddy. All right, talk to the people.
Hey, good afternoon. My first name is Buddy, B-U-D-D-Y, like Ben and a pound. Last name Sanders. Full disclosure, I am a League of Women Voters. Previous life was a journalist and behavioral health businesswoman for over 20 years. I would recommend that in order to get solutions, how about when you go out of here, look at who could be qualified to be representative of your town, of your legislator, because that's where it's happening. All right? And when people learn to make money off of humans, then we got a serious problem. Okay? And that's what I would encourage each of you to do. To make a difference where people who work and go to the legislature will not be coming up with plans on how to make money off of human beings for the rest of their life. Because once you're out, it hasn't ended. So this is a challenge for each of us to try to figure out and encourage people to get involved, okay? To volunteer, so that there will be people who are working in Atlanta, but they're not working to enrich themselves with money because they are taking advantage of regular human beings with legislation and all of the other stuff that will basically harass and prevent people who've done their time to get an opportunity to be real humans. So I would encourage you this time, take it serious, and when it's time to vote and whatever else, think of it differently and say, do I want someone that's going to write legislatures, write all types of policy that's going to basically have someone's life, their normal life, eliminated permanently as long as they are alive? Then that's what we've got. We've got people that are writing policy to enrich themselves at the expense of human beings. So I would encourage you this next time, that we're preparing for voting and all of those things. And then I have something better than that. Why don't you consider running for something? Okay? That's a better thing. I actually was a candidate when I was 31, thereabouts, running for Richmond County. So I would encourage you to consider that. It's you and you and you and you and you and you. You're probably better off and more qualified than the guys down there. Okay? Having fun in Atlanta. Just writing legislations and all of the other stuff to enrich themselves. Okay?
Thanks.
So I would encourage that. Thank you very much.
And something quick, just say, well, you come on up, it's gonna be quick. And I think they should put something in place, a politician, when they start to run, to sign an agreement or a contract to fulfill whatever they say before they actually get in the seat. Because a lot of them tell us what we want to hear to get our vote, and once they get in their seat, they turn it back. So I think if we should come together and try to get something in place to make them sign the contract and say, if you win, and whatever you said, it got to be fulfilled, or this punishment or something should happen. That'll stop a lot of it too.
Hi, I'm a retired nurse and I did work. I'm from Utah, just recently moved to this area, but I did volunteer in the jail there in Salt Lake County. And I just wanted to go away from here with you guys what you think we can each do to help. Because this problem has gone on for way too long. Yeah, so we'll just get some idea of what we can each do.
Every third Tuesday of the month. This Tuesday coming up, actually next one. We be at Allen Homes. So if you can encourage somebody to come with you, come down, and join us, that can be a start. And then when you bring them down, we encourage them to bring another person next Tuesday. So long as our numbers increase at these meetings, then we'll be able to make a change, because numbers rule. They need us to vote. We the ones put these people in these seats. But the change starts with us. And I got a saying, I tell people all the time, it takes the community to say the community. So we get out here in the community and put our boots to the ground together. These people in these seats, I ain't gonna say they don't have a choice, but we'll be heard and changes will be made. So we just gotta start coming down on these third Tuesdays of the month and increase our numbers, and then our voice will be heard once we come together. Because even a lot of whispers make a lot of noise.
One of the things the league, that I started with the league was the Contact 5 challenge. One of the things that we find when we're trying to get voters out is relational organizing. You're going to listen, if you know me, you're going to listen to what I say more than somebody off the street telling you to vote or somebody telling you who to vote for, or even giving you voter information. That relationship that you have with your friends, with your family, those neighbors, those employers, those employees with you, those are important. So Harold's idea of bringing somebody with you, that's my whole thing, is bring somebody to the polls, get them to the polls, make sure that they come with you. That same thing, come to better your community. Okay? That it's where we join together that we can't spend all our time on Facebook complaining, right? You know, keyboard warriors don't accomplish anything. And I'm a social media manager, so I know this. But that we got to go beyond that. We've got to come and we've got to be together. One of the things I found coming out of COVID is we got used to being by ourselves, doing things on our own. We forgot that village that raises a child. We forgot that whole concept of working together is what's going to make us do it. And that's the whole concept of that they're trying to pull us apart. They're trying to make you focus on how we're different. We are so much more. You heard the stories today. Could you connect with that? I did. I sure did. The stories are what's important, that we know that we are more alike than we are different. And when we, as I think Harold says, when we start seeing them as people, we have to see each other as people, not as labels, not as a race, not as a political organization. We need to see each other as individuals and that we are people. And that's the biggest thing. I want to say thank you so much for our panel. And I thank you for coming and participating and being a part of our second judicial panel forum. And I want to also invite you to come out to the Islamic Center tomorrow for the Georgia Interfaith Power and Light workshop on the power grid and data centers. And then, if you want to join us, the League meets the third Monday of the month. That's how I know where our business meets, because they meet the day after. We meet the third Monday of the month at Advent Lutheran Church, or you can attend by Zoom, and I'll give you that link if you come and ask me. But this Monday, we have a special treat. We have Cassandra Laughlin. She works with Healthy Communities, which is a part of the Savannah River Keeper, and she's going to talk about the fight against data centers, a healthy communities perspective. So she's going to be talking about that, and that's from 6 to 8 at Advent Lutheran Church, and we invite you to come and join us. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and follow us on Substack if you want to know the dirt in detail. All right?
I have one last thing, Gayla. I'm so sorry. I missed it. I didn't say it. I know Gayla will help me in letting everybody know. But I wanted to go back to Ms. Buddy. She's absolutely right. Legislation and legislators. Protected class ordinance is going to hit the commission floor soon. We need everybody there to support us, please. Because we know when we fill the chambers, them folks up there are less likely to shoot down our stuff. So protected class ordinance is coming to Richmond County's commission floor. So hopefully, Gayla, you'll let us know.
Follow the League of Women Voters, CSRA League of Women Voters on Facebook, and And outside, when you came in and signed in, there was a link to join our mailing list, and we'll keep you up to date too. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Refreshments.
If you want some refreshments, we have some water, some drinks, some chips, and things like that. So come and join us. Thank you so much for attending.